Okay, this is my second time recording this video after almost 4 minutes of talking. So, yes, the cities that I've been to, and I'm just going to kind of give you a breakdown of where we've been in Mexico. So, when we started out our scouting trips back in 2022, I think in May of 2022, so almost 2 years ago, actually. I came to Tulum. It was kind of on the tail end of everybody going to Tulum, like it being the big hype. It was almost on the tail end of that. And day 4 of being in Mexico, in Tulum at this particular time, I was like, I'm moving to Mexico. My doctor thought I was crazy. But anyway, so a few short weeks later, I was in Costa Rica. Honey and I had our honeymoon. And then, oh, hold on, y'all. Okay. And then a couple of weeks later, I was back in Mexico, so in Cancun. So I've been to all of Quintana Roo, the majority of Quintana Roo. So that consists of Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum. And out of that place, to Playa del Carmen is my absolute favorite place. It is beautiful, it's tropical, it's fun, it's young. But the downside is if you are trying to, for us, to relocate your life, it is extremely touristy and it's very much a party vibe and it's really small. So it's an hour away from Cancun, so it's an hour away from Tulum. So, but that's besides the point. It's just absolutely beautiful, but it's very transient. People get there, they don't necessarily stay that long. They don't really make it their home. I only know a couple of people out of the people that we originally met in 2022 that have still made Playa their home, but it's one of my favorite places to visit. I can't get enough of Playa. My goal is to be back there later on, not even later on this year, in a couple of months. I plan to go back in May. The next thing we went to Merida. um, it was not for us. I did a whole video on YouTube. I think that's like my top video on YouTube still to this day about why Merida wasn't for us. And I think it is because there's a lot of push to go to Merida. And for us, it was like, what is this hype all about? Now, let me give you some context. For us, Merida was too spread out. We wanted something that was walkable. And also, we wanted a more younger vibe. It felt like Merida was just for families, people with small children, and older retired people. People who are like in their 40s, still got a lot of get up and go, want to do things, and still, very active and in their life. And it just wasn't, we didn't find our age bracket there. And the people that I did meet that were within my age demographic quickly left. So it was just not for us. We were in Merida for like a week there. And some people said we should have stayed longer. You know when you know. The next is Mexico City. Spent a month initially in Mexico City. I'm gonna put a pin in that. I'm gonna come back to Mexico City. Went to Puebla for just a couple of days, but Puebla is absolutely beautiful. It is beautiful. It is one of the most religious places in Mexico. So I think they have the most churches in the state of Puebla, and we were in Puebla City. But it's beautiful. The architecture, the food is amazing. The culture is there. There's a lot of history in Puebla. Puebla does have active volcanoes. So if you are on your scouting journey, one of the things that you definitely want to consider outside of the cost of living is natural disasters. Not something that people don't necessarily take into consideration. Puebla has active volcanoes and her earthquakes. And in the country of Mexico itself, it does lie on the fault line, and it's very hard to find a place that doesn't have any natural disasters. And we just so happen to luck out here in San Miguel de Allende. It doesn't have any natural disasters, but that's not what drew us here. The next that we went to was Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. We spent about 5 days in Puerto Vallarta, one of the most touristy places that is really centered around the white Americans or maybe Canadians, but it just was not for us. And we did there's a thriving Black community in Puerto Vallarta. It is absolutely beautiful. as far as the landscape and the topography. I mean, it's just, you have the mountains, you have the ocean, you have the jungle, you have the things as far as nature is concerned in Puerto Vallarta. However, as a Black gay or lesbian couple, we were an anomaly. We stood out like sore thumbs. Puerto Vallarta really caters to the gay man and the white gay man in particular, or older white retired or traveling people, and it just wasn't for us. Also, the cost of living was higher than what we wanted to consider, and with all of the things like us sticking out like sore thumbs and the heavy tourism and the cost, it just wasn't for us. But make sure if you do visit Puerto Vallarta that you venture down the coast and get away from like the main touristy attraction in Puerto Vallarta, because it gets more beautiful the further down the coast that you go. The next was Guadalajara. I absolutely love Guadalajara. Guadalajara, the Tapatillos and the Tapatillas, which the local native people are called, some of the most nicest people I have ever run into in the state of Mexico, and I'm sorry, in the country of Mexico. Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta are in the state of Jalisco, but Guadalajara is it is extremely spread out. So know that it's not a lot of walkability in Guadalajara. So, but you will eat to your heart's content, and the people are absolutely amazing. And you will find various ways of living accommodation. So you'll have your high rises, you'll have your homes, you'll have your townhouses. You have a lot of options, and it is very. I mean, it's affordable. Still. The next, of course, is Mexico City. Spent a month there initially, and then 2 months when we thought we were going to make Mexico City our home. There is a video on my YouTube channel about why we left Mexico City, but essentially Mexico City is all of the things that they say that it is. It is, tons of cultures. The food is like none other. You can eat very cheap off the taco cart, which I enjoy, or you can eat at a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and that is just what Mexico City offers. You have the parks, you have the nature, you have the walkability, you have the different colonias, you have the fruit stands, the mercados. It's just an abundance of everything. However, the cost of living is like the U.S., and people are starting to push back on Mexico City and how it's pushed the natives, way out of the city. However, the Mexican landlords need to take some responsibility as well, because they are the ones who are charging these astronomical prices. 9 times out of 10, if you are an expat or if you're an immigrant, you don't come in owning property. And so they are taking advantage of the influx of dollars coming in, and they are definitely price gouging. So just know that going into Mexico City. But it's an amazing place to visit. We will be back in Mexico City in June. We will be also visiting Zihuatanejo, which is in the state of Guerrero, later on. And then I will be in Bacalar in May. So I love Mexico. It is everything that the U.S. is not, and it is everything the U.S. says that it isn't.